So our next talk is Dr. David Keynes, who's a urologist, but also started a company focusing on how to educate and communicate with patients, which is another huge important facet.
Advancing the slide is right there, and the green button's all right. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk here and for the invitation. Thank you so much. I'm going to talk about a practice efficiency lever that most of you are probably not using yet. And by way of disclosures, this silhouette is not my likeness. Clearly, I do not have a full head of hair. But as mentioned, I'm the founder and CEO of a company called WellPrept that is going to be featured in this talk. Unfortunately, this is a lot like what being a doctor looks like in 2022. There was just a study of orthopedic surgeons. The face time in front of the computer in a day is now 58%. It's now the majority of what we do. And if I think about my med school version of myself with a full head of hair, I don't know that I would have been as excited about being a doctor if I knew that this was the future that we had in store. And in many ways, a lot of what we do is a series of repetitive tasks. It makes us feel like a hamster on a wheel. And you know, I can't talk to you about practice efficiency without talking also about wellness, because this is a huge problem. So that's what we're after here, and I think that workplace efficiency is a huge part of this. But the dialogue usually talks about these things. Look at this list: nutrition, sleep, mindfulness, positivity, resilience. Guess whose responsibility these things are? Your responsibility. But you know, what we need to talk about is systems level changes. To me, that means workflow optimization. And you can't achieve a work-life balance without both sides of this. But there's not enough discussion happening around the right side of this screen. So I made a list of tools that maybe you can, if you can think of more, stop me after the talk. These are the things that actually help your practice. EHR templates, dot phrases, order sets, scribes, although that shifts the burden on some other poor individual, but team-based care, scheduling flexibility, in-basket management. And I submit to you that you need to consider patient education as a way to leverage efficiency in your practice. This is my timeline, and back in 2015, I was burnt out. And I identified a factor in my clinics of having to repeat myself over and over again as a problem. I do a lot of prostate cancer, and I remember talking to a 68-year-old engineer, and I gave my spiel on Gleason score. And I got to the end, and I didn't remember even giving the talk. I'd given it so many times. It's not a good feeling. We all have these. If I talk to you and I say, what are the spiels that fill your clinic? Each of you, without hesitation, could tell me at least 3 or 4 things you wish you never had to explain again. That's what my grandmother would have called it, a spiel. So around 2015, I decided, all right, this is enough. And I asked my secretary to send the PDF of the NCCN prostate cancer guidelines to any patient that was seeing me for prostate cancer. And not all of them read it, but the ones that did, the clinic visit was so much better for me, for the patient. So I took it one step further. Loom videos had just come out. I recorded my prostate cancer grading and staging video. It was the best explanation that I could give. I started sending that video. And then I had explained robotic prostatectomy, I don't know, 1,000 times. I did my best explanation over 16 minutes. Now my secretary started to get annoyed with me. So she has to send the PDF and 2 videos to the patients. But those patient visits were better. Now let's think about a clinic schedule. This is a light clinic day, okay? But you know, we got return visits in red, new patients in blue. You start the clinic and you think, how am I going to get through this day? Lunch is a joke because your morning clinic bleeds into lunchtime. Probably a patient was added over lunch because you can't say no to your staff. And then come the afternoon, you're thinking about all the messages and results that are waiting for you at the end of the day. And then family concerns start to creep in. Am I going to make it to lacrosse practice? Is my partner going to be pissed at me because I'm coming home late? We talk a lot about how to document more efficiently, and I think we need to zoom in on the clinic visit itself. So the clinic visit itself is a finite period of time, and there's so much that you have to ask, things that you have to say, there's things that you have to document, you got to get paid for what you do, and you need to teach the patient. We're all teachers, right? And you've got to fit that into that period of time. And for me, the spiels and the education component fills a huge chunk of that time. Even when you're talking to well-educated patients, you have to get through some foundational information, much of which is a monologue on your part that you've explained hundreds of times, before you can get to the good stuff. The good stuff is the part that I enjoy talking about. It's the specific stuff that pertains to the human being that's sitting in front of me. I enjoy that. And it's the part that's, frankly, the most important for the patient. So I would submit to you that this is the goal, all right? A refresher on the information, and then the good stuff for the entire time. Now, aspirationally, maybe the visit can be shorter as well. That's up to you. We need to stop thinking about the clinic visit as this thing that begins when the patient shows up face to face. We've got all this time in blue on either side where the patient is at home. They should be doing work. You're a teacher, right? So imagine teaching with no curriculum and no homework. It's not possible. When they're sitting in front of you, the expert, the way I look at this is, what happens face to face should be things that can't be done outside that visit. And this is 2022. We've got plenty of resources. Patients should be doing work at home on the front end and on the back end so that we can, maximize the use of your expert time. So then Linktree came along. Have you guys seen Linktree? You spend a little bit of time on Instagram, and I saw this and I thought, holy cow. I could organize patient education information. My secretary might only have to send one link to somebody instead of 20. So I called up some urology friends and I created a little prototype. It was a really simple thing, and it had just a stack of buttons with resources, and I sent it to 15 of my urology friends to try it out, and I made pages for each of them. And a few of them didn't use it, but the ones that did were really excited about it. The conversations with their patients were better, they said, and a few of them were so bullish on it that they reprinted their business cards with the QR code for their education pages. And it got baked into their workflow. So the seed of an idea, I went after it wholeheartedly, and has now grown into WellPrept, which is a productivity tool to help doctors share educational information with their patients. Now, I want to be clear, this is not a talk about WellPrept. For the love of God, or whatever deity or greater power you ascribe to, use something to get patient education in front of your patients. There's another company called VidScript, which does a great job. You can email patients, you can create an Excel sheet and send it to them, text message, try and put it on your website, a Word file, something, a carrier pigeon, for God's sake. Somehow get the information, because this is an important lever. But I am going to show you what WellPrept looks like. This is a desktop version of Dr. Perazio, who's in Philadelphia. This is his kidney cancer page, and even from the back of the room you can see it's designed to be very simple. On the left side is a stack of buttons. He chooses whatever he wants on there. He's got NCCN guidelines, AUA guidelines, a link to a support group, etc. And then videos, some of which he recorded, some of which he pulled off the web. What does it look like in mobile? It's supposed to be very simple. A video carousel and a stack of buttons. This is that same kidney cancer page optimized for mobile viewing. Now the onboarding flow, if you sign up, is pretty cool. We ask you a series of questions, obviously email and password, and then your name, your location. The system looks you up. It asks if you're a resident or a fellow. It looks you up in the MPI registry if you're in the US and finds you. And then kind of a cool step where you pick the conditions, just like signing up for Spotify, and you say what music you like, which conditions you treat, and your pages are pre-populated with some suggested content. You upload a photo, you verify your email, and you're done. This is me actually logging into my doctor profile. So this is not what the patient sees, but see all these pages? Those are a count of the page views that patients have visited these pages. You can access the QR codes for each one. And let's say I wanted to edit the kidney stone page. I click on that tile. There's the videos. If I hit edit, I can change the order of the videos, and if I want to add one, I just click add, I plop in the YouTube link, hit refresh, and my page is done with any edits that you want on your phone. Then there's an About Me section where you can edit all your information, your titles, your web profiles from all over the web. Let's say you want phone numbers. You can get extremely specific. You can have a phone number for your after hours, for a backline, triage. Everything is done by you. You don't need a web designer or a web team or anything. So we're bringing some autonomy back for the doctor. So the way I look at it, this is my prostate cancer curriculum, and it's a lot to ask. I want the patient to read these 2 guidelines, listen to a podcast, read a New York Times article on active surveillance, fill out a questionnaire, watch 4 videos, and if they want, a PDF on dietary tips for prostate cancer. Now I can share all of this with one QR code, and patients consume this, and they send it to their family members, and they come in, and the visit is, as you can imagine, so much easier. It's almost like virtually taking all this stuff and packing it up into a care package, and now you have a digital asset that you can scale. Doctors need to stop thinking about what they do as a one-to-one interaction over and over and over and over. This is working for you 24/7. It's almost as if it's virtually being delivered right to the patient's house for anyone who sees you for that condition. And this is why I can have a consult on an 83-year-old woman with a complex renal cyst, and I swear to you, this is how the consult starts. Hey, thanks for sending all that information. What Bosniak class is my cyst? I mean, to me, this is an enjoyable way to practice. We have had a lot of organic, it's really heartwarming feedback from users on Twitter who, unsolicited, have started posting about how transformational this has been in their practice. And we've got users all over the world, Ireland, UK, Italy, South Africa, continental US, Puerto Rico. It's really pretty exciting. But again, help future you by getting these materials in front of your patients, even if it's by carrier pigeon. If anybody's interested in checking it out, hold up your phone, you can scan this, and I can get your information. And stop me in the hall. I'll be the bald guy in the blue suit, and let's chat. Love to know your feedback either way. Thank you so much.
Can you hang out for a question?
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question? So, first of all, I love this, and we're all tortured by repetitive activities. It strikes me that this could be marketed not just to individuals, but like departments and health systems. Could you just sort of speak to that application?
Yep. So, you know, it's funny, we sort of haven't even officially announced a launch, and so far the traction has just been by word of mouth. We have both scenarios where individual doctors are seeing this on social media and reaching out. We also have whole departments where the department chair, you know, if you're a department chair and you're concerned about the well-being of your staff, it's one thing to pay lip service, but the feedback from the department chairs who have signed their whole faculty up for this is, I'm actually doing something tangible. You know, we have a radar, each of us. If I tell you I'm going to help you in clinic and I'm going to give you a scribe, you're like, okay, that's going to help, you know. If I tell you, show up to this mandatory resilience training at noon, you're like, no. So there's a real feeling in those who've signed up their departments that they're doing something good for their staff.
Harvey's News, Austin, Texas. I'm a reproductive urologist there. So very nice presentation, and I think this is a brilliant idea. And I just wanted to kind of mention my experience that obviously I think this platform is a really useful one. But it's not just us that feel the shield, the patients feel the shield too. So
Yeah.
A few years ago I was seeing a clinic, and I was doing we all do, just repetition by memory, muscle memory thing. And like you mentioned, I wasn't even thinking about what I was saying. Just going through my spiel, at the end of it, the patient looked at me and goes, "My God, you look like you said that a lot of times." And he literally said it. So I looked at him, I'm like, "I'd say it about a dozen times a day." And he goes, "Man, you know who you sound like? You sound like one of those flight attendants up front. That's from the plane just saying, 'Hey, welcome aboard,' and blah, 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 and blah, blah." Probably do, that's not great. And he looks at me and goes, "Why don't you shoot a video?"
Really? Jesus Christ.
And so I went home and I perseverated about it. I said, "Well, patients don't want this personal care, or this impersonal." I got an iPad for every one of my exams and every one of my offices, and the ones that are virtual visits, they get emailed video, and I've been doing that for about 3 years now, and I've had 0 complaints about impersonability. Of course, they for face-to-face or virtual time to go question for things, but I think this is brilliant.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, you know, I mean, you've described the use case exactly, and WellPrept is not the only way to do it. I just encourage everyone to think about their medical student self who was like really jazzed up about doing this for a career. I think most of us really enjoy talking to patients, but having an actual organic conversation where you're fully present. And you're not fully present when you enter the robot mode of the spiel.
So, Sheldon works in designing reversals now, but back in the early 90s, I had the same problem. It used to be 90 minutes for a consult for prostate cancer, so then I wrote a book, and what I found was that it basically said the exact thing, except it was a lot harder to write the book than what we did here, it was smarter, but basically patients give them the book and say, "Come back in a week." The question is, do you document what resources they've read? Because later on, being raised by a lawyer and married to a lawyer, if you can document that, then later on they can't say, "I didn't know that." So is that part of their record now?
Yeah, that on the roadmap is somehow tracking that they've looked at it. Right now, in early adopters clinics, people are saying they put in their note the visit was augmented with online resources, blah 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 blah. But that's a great point.
A lot of patients, a lot of doctors who use the prostate cancer book to say to me, "This saved my ass," because later the patient claimed, "I didn't tell them this, and yet I gave them the book," and after back then AstraZeneca bought bazillions of them and gave them out, so everybody had them. So the doctors would say, I could say, "No, that's not true, because there's a chapter in there that talks about these things," and so they were very grateful. So that's a good thing that doctors.
That's incredible.
Okay, thank you. Excellent. I was just wonderful. I wish you'd done this in 95.
Thank you so much.